Good evening and welcome to another episode of Make Health Your Habit Live. I am so excited. This is the second episode. We held an episode last week. It went down really well, and I'm just so excited about the shows and the guests I have on. I have some fantastic guests on next week, but this week I have a real gem. A guy, a man that I've admired for a long time. And, for any of you who might have wanted to hold a show on a podcast, and if that is the case, there may have been a guest that you wanted on the show. Well, this is the one. And I'm so pleased that he's agreed to join the show in its humble beginnings. And it's a testament to the man and who he is and what he stands for. Now, one of the things that concerned me when I started my low carb journey was about taste. Because I love food. I really love food. I love the way food tastes. And I wanted food that tasted good. Sahil from Headbangers Kitchen was the answer to that, because his food is absolutely delicious. I mean, some of his recipes, I really don't know how he manages to do that. But I'm going to let him tell you himself. So I normally give a little DJ horn. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Sahil from Headbangers Kitchen. Good evening, Sahil. Oh,
Hey, what's up, Ken? How are you?
I'm excellent. So tell me, what time is it where you are now? What time is it?
I think it's about 11:30 p.m. right
11.
now.
And you're in Mumbai. Is it what?
Yeah.
Mumbai? Oh, fantastic. Well, so listen. As I said, it's a real pleasure that you took the time out to come on the show. You are a sensation. You are a low carb sensation. There's no other way to describe that. I mean, your YouTube channel has over 500,000 subscribers, and you constantly, many of your videos have over 100,000 views and more. So you are incredibly popular in the low carb world, and there must be a reason for that. And we're going to kind of explore some of that, some of those reasonings today. But the first question I really want to start with today, and I think for the obvious question is you're from India and
Yeah.
you're into low carb. What started your journey into the low carb world?
Right. Okay. So the consolidated version of the story is that I've always sort of struggled with my weight, because I love food. Like you said, you love food. I love food as well. And sometimes, you don't know when to stop. And before you know it, you're packing the pounds and, you're not happy with the way you look. At least for me, I would say it was a look thing. Just you look in the mirror, you see fat version of yourself, you're not very happy about it. uh, you know so for me, weight was always a sort of issue, and I was always trying to lose weight but never really succeeding in it. And I had tried many different diets and eating programs, and I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. A friend of mine who was actually in my band, in my comedy rock band, and he was quite obese. He was about, I think, 130 kilograms. Um, he had suddenly started the keto diet. He had obviously gone to some dietitian whose name I still don't know till this day. And she had prescribed the keto diet to him, as in, she had basically told him, look, you are not going to eat any bread, any rice, any rotis, basically no carbs. You just eat fat and protein. And he obviously, like when most people go to a dietitian, they don't really get the science behind the diet, or they don't really retain that part of it. you know Many people just go to the dietitian with the hope of getting a piece of paper saying, eat this, and you'll lose weight. So long story short, uh, we were meeting for band practice. He told me about this diet. I said, "What are you eating?" He said, "Yeah, I'm just eating like meat and vegetables, and I'm taking out the bread if I'm eating a burger or something." And when he told me about this high fat protein, I was just my first thing was, "Dude, you're going to get a heart attack and die."
Mm.
Because I guess we've all been just conditioned to believe that fat is the enemy. Eat, don't eat butter, eat margarine instead. Don't have Coke, have a diet Coke. Don't eat a fried food, eat a baked food instead. So I was very skeptical, but he lost about 30 kilos, which is about 60 to 70 pounds. And my wife, who had also put on some weight at the time, saw that, and we realized he did this without any exercise. So my wife hates exercising, and she basically said, "Look, he lost 30 kilos and he didn't exercise at all. So I'm going to figure out what he's done." So she called him up, had a chat with him, found out it was the keto diet. She did all the research on it, like figured everything out, told me about it. She said, "I'm starting it." I said, "You're going to get a heart attack and die." and then and then she did keto, and in 3 months she was down 10 kilos, which is like what, 30 pounds, 22 pounds, something like that. And I was like, "Okay, you also lost weight without exercise. You're not dead from a heart attack. You've explained the science to me. I think I'm going to start this too." And that's kind of how I got started on low carb. And then, of course, it was a matter of just watching video after video, reading article after article, and just kind of expanding my knowledge on the entire subject.
So it seems as if you went through a similar journey to myself, whereby when you were first introduced to low carb, you completely rejected it. You just thought, well, this is going to give me a heart attack. I'm going to get high blood pressure. I can't eat this fat. And this is a situation that many people find themselves in. And unfortunately, it stops many people taking that extra step. Fortunately, it didn't stop you, and obviously, congratulations to your wife for being so tenacious in the way she was doing her research. Because maybe had she not come back to you with the research, you may have not gone on this journey, and you can imagine how many lives you've changed just through your recipes. So your wife started doing when you first started doing low carb. What was your experience when you personally just started it? What just first of all, what were your challenges when you first started doing low carb?
So I think the first challenge is, I think for anyone who's doing low carb, is what do I eat my butter chicken with, or what do I eat,
Yes,
my beef stew with, or what do I
yes,
eat,
yes,
what do I eat my gravy dishes with,
yes.
my sauces. What do I mop up that extra sauce with? So I think that was the one of the sort of conditionings that was like, okay, that's the first step, is like, fine, learn to eat it with a spoon. Because at that point I had not gotten into
Mm,
keto breads or keto rotis and naans and things like that. Even rice came about a month and a half into it, I think. But largely it was, the first mindset was, what do you eat stuff with? The second mindset was getting comfortable with actually with the amount of fat I was eating. Because you're made to fear fat quite a lot. And especially when you're cooking an egg and you're so used to putting like this much oil in it normally, to try and keep the fat down, and suddenly you're like, yeah, I got to put in a half a stick of butter to
mm,
make my
yes.
eggs. So yeah, that was a bit of conditioning that I had to kind of do as well. And I think in general, I mean, it's just a mindset shift, really. Like, just, okay, this is what I thought was right about food, and now I have to understand that the stuff that I thought was necessarily bad is not as bad as it was meant to be. Saturated fats, eating pork with fat on it, or eating chicken thighs, or eating chicken with skin. All these things which you are always avoiding. Oh, eat only chicken breast, avoid the skin. don't get pork with fat on it. All that stuff. Just that was the stuff I had to kind of relearn and just adjust, really.
I think that's so important that you're speaking about relearn, because I often say that to people who I work with. You have to relearn what you've learned over the time to be able to understand and embrace your low carb journey. Now, your first personal high on your journey, because I know what mine was. What was your first personal high on your low carb journey?
I think the fact that I lost 12 kilos doing it was was quite
Wow.
uh, good for me. I was quite happy with that.
I can understand. Yeah. And you lost 12 kilos. And how much exercise did you do?
Nothing. I didn't do one. I didn't lift a finger.
Okay. And this is such an important point here, because I say to people often, a low carb diet is the kind of diet you can go on, and you don't need to exercise to lose weight on it. Exercise is a fantastic form to keep your body healthy, cardiovascular. But from the perspective of weight loss, on a low carb diet, you do not have to go in the gym. And I've had that personal experience with a few people I've worked with myself, and it's great that you've also had the experience and your wife has had
Yeah.
the experience. You lost all that weight with no gym whatsoever.
Yeah. No gym. But I will, like you said, exercise is good. And I think given the fact that now I've been on and off keto for 4 years, nearing 5 now, I think a lot of perspectives have been changed, a lot of things have been unlearned and relearned,
Mm,
and one of those things is the importance of exercise.
mm,
So as much as I hated it and I was happy to lose that weight without exercise, I think I reached a point where I realized that, okay, losing weight is one thing, looking a certain way is another,
mhm,
building muscle is another aspect. Anyone can lose weight, but what does that do? That does not necessarily mean you're achieving what you may have thought of. Like, everyone thinks, okay, I want to be a certain number on the scale, but that doesn't necessarily mean your body's suddenly going to look like, the Baywatch lifeguards. It's,
yes.
you know, and that was something I made a video on. I've talked about what I like to call the goal weight delusion.
Okay.
So ever since I kind of grew up, my mother was always on my case, like most mothers are, about my weight. Oh, you need to lose a little bit of weight. And of course, she had this magic number, 65 kilos. I think you should be 65 kilos, you know, for whatever her reason, wherever she got her information from. Turns out the ideal weight for someone of my height is around 65 kilos.
Okay.
So
Good.
sometimes, yeah,
Mum
sometimes mothers
knows.
just have,
Mum
yeah,
knows
mom
best, huh?
knows.
Okay.
But the thing is, yeah, you know what? I became 65 kilos. In fact, I went down to 64 kilos at one point, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, the size has reduced, but I just look exactly the same. There is no magical transformation. I suddenly don't have cuts on my body. My abs are not showing. Whether it's for vanity, whether it's for just bringing your body fat down, whatever the reason you're pursuing the weight loss goal, just losing weight doesn't magically make your body look a certain way. That comes from building muscle through exercise, whether it's weight training, or you drop a lot more body fat, by kind of doing a lot of cardio and eating right and keeping that diet going. So the weight is just one part of weight loss. Yeah, so okay, you reach the number on the scale and you've got some relief mentally. You can sit back and say, hey, I achieved
Mm.
something I set out to. But there's more to fitness than that. You have to continue from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a fan of exercise. I exercise all the time, but I do know that people on a weight loss journey sometimes, when they're possibly excessively overweight, they're very scared of exercise. They don't
Yes.
want to exercise, and because they don't want to exercise, they don't sometimes even start a program to lose weight. The great thing about a low carb diet is you can lose a certain amount of weight through without exercise, and then when you feel a little bit more confident, because going in the gym can be a little bit intimidating sometimes, or exercising can be a little bit
Yeah.
intimidating, you've lost some weight, then you can start that journey. So I try to explain to people that, exercise is part of the Lean Mind Method, which is what my book is about. But I try to explain to people that on a low carb diet, you can lose weight without exercise. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do exercise, but
Yeah.
exercise is not a prerequisite to lose weight. And I'm going to go into that in a little more detail in some other in some other of these shows. In fact, it's a fitness show next week, but it's really, really
Right.
great that you've actually allowed the listeners to be able to hear you and your wife lost all that
Yeah.
weight without exercise. So you and your wife discovered low carb. You were there cooking. You obviously enjoy cooking. How did the journey to YouTube start? What was the thinking behind that?
Right. Okay. So YouTube actually goes back much, much further before low carb. So Headbangers Kitchen, which is the channel, has actually been around since 2011. And as you have mentioned, and as you know, I'm a musician. I've been making music now for 20 years. Been playing for about 22, I think now. And music has been what I've sort of dedicated my entire life to. So I was always working on my music. I was working on anything that would help me promote my music as well. So I think it was around 2007 that I kind of started to find a little bit of uh, interest once again in cooking, because cooking actually predates the music. So uh, I have to go back a little more in time for that, because we I grew up wanting to be a chef, which turned into a heavy metal musician. And around 2007, I kind of started this little food blog on Facebook, because Facebook had just started. And I think in around 2008 or so, YouTube had sort of started to become big in India. We were getting better internet connections, broadband was here. So I was watching a lot of cooking videos on YouTube. And when my band recorded our first music video, I kind of had this idea to film my little recipes that I was uploading on Facebook, and make like a video recipe, because I was watching these shows like Epic Meal Time and the Barbecue Pit Boys, which is a lot of meat heavy shows with a lot of over the top food and stuff like that. So I asked the director of my music video, who said, look, I'm thinking of making videos for my recipes. Will you help me film it? And he said, yeah, that sounds good, but why don't we do something a little more than a basic recipe video? So I was like, you know what? Let's put together a show where I call a metal band onto the show. I will cook a dish for that band based on one of their songs or the band name. I'll interview them, and at the end of the interview, they can taste the dish. And this was a great idea. It was going to be a heavy metal show, cooking show called Headbangers Kitchen, and it would really help me, because people would come and watch the show because they were a fan of the band I was interviewing, or they like cooking, and in turn they'd discover me, my band, my music, and hopefully this would be another unique way to promote my music. So that's kind of how the channel started. And I actually ran it this way for about 4 years. But then after 4 years, the channel hadn't grown much. And I think in 4 years, I had about 4,000 subscribers, which is not much. And I hadn't made any money off the channel. Not that I was looking to make money, but for me, uh, one or the other has to be there to motivate me. So either people need to be watching what I'm doing, or I need to be making money. If no one's watching, or if not enough people are watching and there's no money, it doesn't make sense to me. So I said, okay, I'm done with this show. I'm going to make recipe videos when I feel like, on my own in my kitchen with one camera. I'll do everything, because prior to this, I had a full production team with lights, and we'd move everything in my house to film. And it was a lot of work. So I finally changed the format, and I just said, I'll dedicate all my free time to my band instead. And whenever I feel like cooking, I'll do it. So I started doing some videos. And then since I got on keto, I was like, I'm eating a pizza made out of cauliflower. I have to film it. So I started doing videos.
And that's what you decide to do. Just so you know, I think your screen froze there
Ah,
slightly, but that's
okay.
okay. So you were saying you made a pizza out of cauliflower, which is absolutely
Yes.
amazing to be able to do that. Many people wouldn't believe you'd be able to make a pizza out of a pizza out of cauliflower. You know
Yeah, I mean now they will.
the question is, as you move on, tell us also where the name Headbangers comes from, because it just seems to be not related to low carb at all. How did the Headbangers Kitchen come in to your YouTube name?
Yeah, because I was, like I said, it was a heavy metal cooking show. So I was cooking and I was feeding a band on the show, and the band would I mean, it was a heavy metal show. So I would wait. Where did I get cut off? Did you hear the part about the show?
Yeah, no, you heard the part about the show. It's just where you was talking about the pizza.
Ah, no, the part before that, where when I
Yes,
started the show
yes,
in 2011. So
yes.
because I was interviewing heavy metal bands, and I'm a heavy metal musician, so it's a heavy metal cooking show. So the genre of music. So when people who listen to heavy metal, we headbang at concerts. So
Okay,
so this was a
that's
place
right.
for heavy metal fans. So it was Headbangers Kitchen because I'm a metalhead, or a headbanger.
And your name is Demon Stealer.
Yes, my stage name is Demon Stealer.
Your stage name is Demon Stealer. I've watched some of your music videos, and I think that gives you the kind of eclectic mix that allows people to be able to relate to you, because you just come across an everyday guy who's discovered something wonderful and just wants to share it with the world. And this is what I get whenever I watch your videos. So when you started to move into the keto and low carb, at what point did it start to kind of take shape and you begin to build yourself that, hold on a minute, I have something here?
Right. So yeah. So like I said, when I shifted over to making the keto videos, again I was simply making cooking videos. The keto was just what diet I was on at the time. So after I did 3 months of keto, I kind of went vegan. I started doing some regular recipes, which was burgers and ice creams and things that I like to eat and stuff. But the keto videos just started getting a lot of views. A lot of people were commenting and saying, hey, awesome, can you have more keto recipes on your channel? And whenever I put on a regular video, so I put on a, a sweet and sour pork recipe, not sweet and sour pork, but it was like a sticky pork belly recipe. So, there would be a lot of comments saying, hey, this is a great recipe. We can totally make it keto by removing the sugar and adding erythritol and replacing the soya sauce with coconut aminos. And I noticed that there was a demand for keto recipes. So I did that keto for 3 months, took a little break, and then I started keto again. So again, I started doing keto recipes, and then the channel just took off. And then I think I kind of realized that, okay, look, nobody cares for the other recipes. Those non keto recipes are getting like 2,000 views, 3,000 views. The keto recipes are hitting like 10 and 15,000 views, which at that point, imagine for someone like me who had videos that were normally getting 1,000 to 2,000 views, that was a lot. That was an incredible amount of views. And suddenly I was at 10,000 subscribers, 15,000. And it's basically the crowd going, keto, keto, keto. And I'm like, just take keto. Here you go.
Yes. Yeah. Um, you spoke about the views and you spoke about the finances coming in. But the great thing about what you do is you must have helped so many people to be able to change their lives, and you must have had. I believe the testimonies of people who have followed you for years, used your recipes, and lost weight. How did that feel when those testimonies started to come in? When you realized that you was actually making a difference in people's lives?
Yeah, I mean, that is, it's a hard feeling to put into words because, and especially since that was never the intent. Like I
Mm.
was just I come to this channel simply as someone who loves to cook and someone who uh, you know I'm a musician. I've never been interested in becoming a fitness trainer or a dietitian or a personal trainer or a nutritionist. In fact, there were people who were telling me, Sahil, I will pay you. Please give me a diet plan. In fact, I had one guy from the music industry actually deposit money into my account and send me a mail saying, I've put so much money in your account. Please send me a diet plan. So, it's unbelievable. Like I'm so glad that what I'm doing is helping people, and that feeling is incredible. Um like I've seen this happen with musicians, and it's obviously, every musician dreams of this, that your music will change the world, your music will
Mm.
get people through tough times. And I've got some of that through my music, but never to this level. So, it does feel good that to know something you are doing and something you consider to be your art. Because cooking is my art, to be really honest. It's like I said, I'm not doing this because I've got to sell a cookbook or because I've got to sell a meal plan to somebody. I'm just doing this because for me, cooking is fun and I love making new things, and it's art for me, you know. So yeah, it's quite humbling, and I'm super grateful for all the support.
I love the way you describe cooking as an art because I actually see it as an art too. I love cooking. I love the presentation. I love putting together. And, the challenge of taking a standard meal and turning it into low carb, you have actually done so well with that. I'm going to talk about my favorite recipe in a moment. But I believe your most favorite recipe is that, because I hear a lot of people, is it a chocolate chip um, what would you say? Let me let you answer the question. What would you say, not from your perspective, I will ask you your favorite one in a moment, but from the people who follow you, what has been your most popular recipe, would you say?
Well, if you're going simply by the number of views on the recipe, I think my keto naan has actually got the
Del-
most amount of views on the channel.
Delicious. I made that, and it was an evening. I was having some Indian. It was so late, and I didn't have time to really cook. And I thought I'll order the Indian. Now, obviously, I couldn't have rice. I couldn't have naan. I thought, what can I do? And I thought, Headbangers Kitchen. I went on and I saw your naan bread and I made it, and it was absolutely delicious. For anybody listening or watching, go to Headbangers Kitchen and Google his naan. It is easy, quick, and absolutely this fantastic recipe. I have to
Thank you.
say. Um, Let me tell you my personal favorite recipe. I need to tell you, my personal favorite recipe is your paella. I love paella. Now, the one of the things I noticed about low carb is when you're using cauliflower, you really have to be careful because you don't want it to get too wet because it gets soggy. So when you put together your paella dish, I saw it and I thought, well, okay, well, I like this guy, but this one is a little bit. I really like him, but this one, I am not sure. And I remember you put it on Instagram, and you set a challenge to people to make the paella and do a post. And I thought, well, this guy's really been good so far. I'm going to try it. I tried your paella, and I have to say, Sal, it was absolutely delicious. I mean,
Thank you.
it was more than it was unbelievable. I actually there was actually for me there was no real difference, and the way you managed to get that burnt paella feeling at the bottom using
Soccer.
it was just wonderful the way you done that. So really, thank you for that. So that's my personal favorite recipe for you. What is your favorite personal recipe?
Hmm. Well, that's a tough one.
Because you had so
um,
many.
yeah, I mean there are a lot, and I guess as a chef, you're constantly looking for new recipes. Uh, it's like a musician that your latest song is always your favorite song. So, but I think the one I love to go back to is my pork fried rice. Uh,
Okay.
the the pork fried rice, yeah, the creamy cheesy pork fried rice. It just hits the spot. There's something about ground pork, with all that fat in it, and then just you throw in those olives and a little bit of cream, some bell peppers. It's really good, man.
I can hear the way you're talking about that dish. I am gonna have to try that dish. That is a dish that I'm going to try it this week, because the way you're talking about it is making me feel hungry, as it is. And you have such wonderful recipes, and I know you recently, sometime was it this? It was this year, wasn't it? You released your book, Keto Life. Was it
Oh
this
no,
year,
it was
or was
last
it
year.
last year? Last year. Okay,
Actually,
tell us,
actually, I think it's been 2 years. Huh? I'm
tell
not
us.
100, but I think it's been nearly 2 years now.
Okay, tell us about your book, Keto Life.
Okay. So that's also a bit of a story. So, here I am doing Headbangers Kitchen on YouTube. I get an email from a publisher in the USA saying, "Hey, we like what you do. We are doing a book, a keto book, and we would love for you to do that book for us. We'd like you to convert some of our recipes because they have like a plethora of
Yeah.
grilling books and uh, whatever cookbooks of many different kinds, and they're like, we'd like you to give us 10 of your dessert recipes and convert, and select from our list of recipes and make like a compilation book for us and, write about keto and stuff. So um, that was the first kind of book that I ever did for these guys. That was called The Ketogenic Diet, and I think that came out in 2016 or 17, maybe. I have lost track of the dates now. But I did that for them first. They offered me another book to do in a similar way. So take all these barbecue recipes and convert them to keto. But I really had no interest in doing that because I'm not a writer. I like to, make videos. So they did that. Then they were like, I didn't hear from them for I think a year. And then they wrote to me saying, hey, listen, can you give us 30 recipes for an easy keto book that we're doing? That seemed interesting because they didn't want me to make their recipes keto. They were like, give us 30 of your recipes and photos. The deal was good, so I said, okay, you know what? So that was the first book I did with my own photographs. So I actually photographed my recipes for that book. And when I was doing that deal with them, I said, look, how do you feel about doing a Headbangers Kitchen cookbook? Because I've got so many people on my YouTube channel saying, Sahil, when are you putting out a cookbook of your own? So they were like, yeah, why not? And so, yeah, this was, I think, January 2018 then. Yeah, I think it was 2018. Um, so in January 2018, I shot 30 recipes for this easy keto cookbook. In February, we shot 100 recipes, which we cooked over 6 days. And we shot for my book, and I put it together, and it was out in September. So the idea was that this is the sort of quintessential Headbangers Kitchen best 100 recipes in one book.
And they can get that Keto Life, a book, off your website. If
Yeah.
they go to your website, they can get it. I mean, I followed your journey on Instagram, and you were taking all the pictures. I remember you were saying you were taking so many pictures and you were cooking so many recipes. So you really you actually done that quite quickly. So and that was an absolute feat. And I've seen so many people on Facebook pictured who have bought the book. So the book has been incredibly popular. When it comes to taking a standard recipe and turning it in, do you find there's a methodology for that, or you just find you could do that easy, or is it sometimes just been a lots and lots of trial and error?
Oh, some of it is a lot of trial and error. Some of it is just um, it happens on the first go. So, for example, a recipe that just happened on the go was my shrimp and grits recipe. That just, I mean, the thing is, I've never actually eaten grits, and this might disappoint some of people, but I live in India.
Yeah.
There's unfortunately no one making grits in India, and I haven't been to America, so I've never had grits. But I do know that grits are a lot like polenta. I watched about, I think, 20 or 30 recipes for grits on YouTube, from different people, because everyone's particular about how they like their grits. And I've eaten a lot of polenta, so I kind of said, okay, I know how this goes. It's just because I understand the food. Like it's like if you know the basics of something, you can put it up much easier. So something like that is easier to do, like savory recipes. Desserts a little more complicated. because you have to find the right amount of sweetness. You have to find the right flour that works, the baking time. And there are plenty of guidelines for baking, but I find, especially with something like keto desserts, it's generally harder because you're really trying to replicate something that's very difficult. So
Mm.
I know I've done 3-4 batches of cookies before I could sort of get my cookie recipe and get that to a level that I was happy with it. Uh, there are things that I've tried which should have been easy, but I haven't been able to get them out. Which was, one of them was a Japanese fluffy pancake, and another one was
Okay.
chaffles or chaffles, whatever people call them. You know, so like everybody's doing the chaffle recipe, and every time I tried it, I just was not happy with it. So I'd never ever put that recipe out. But yeah, so some recipes come easily, some just never make it to YouTube.
And I know you've mentioned keto a lot, but I know there we understand that in the low carb world we have keto, which is a stricter version, which put under 20 grams or 50 grams, and then there's low carb. So you kind of mix between the two, keto and low carb. And I know your journey, to be honest, is you've kind of gone back and forth. You haven't always been strict. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, with the recipes, pretty much everything that's keto is low carb,
Yes.
any which way.
Yes.
I think, and honestly, the way I like to look at cooking is, I would like that my recipes, just should be good, and you should be able to eat them even if you're not doing keto or low carb. Like,
Yes.
my ultimate goal for any recipe is that this needs to taste good enough that somebody who's not interested in keto or low carb looks at it and goes, I want to eat that because it looks good.
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
and I think during my book shoot, both the photographer and the stylist were not on keto. Neither were any of my friends who came and helped me to finish the food up. But I mean, the way some of those keto dishes, like my peanut butter bread, I mean, that was just being, like, literally, we had the bread there. The moment the shot was over, half the loaf was over because the photographer and my and the stylist were just like nibbling on it and finishing it off. And especially for people who are able to eat bread, they're not particularly caring for keto breads. But I knew that bread was a winner because they were eating it and they weren't even keto. So that's one thing I look at when I'm cooking. And in terms of why I may or may not have been keto, the thing is, I have never done keto or low carb because I have a health problem, or I have some issues with, my health. I've done it purely from a weight loss point of view. And I love food. I love experimenting with food. When I travel, when I go on a holiday, I don't really care to see the sights anywhere. I go to eat simply. So for me, all these things, and what most people would just say, life comes in the way sometimes. But there are, like I said, there are lessons that you learn from keto that you take even if you decide to not continue keto. Like, and as you will, I am sure, attest to this as well, fitness is basically forever, right? you
Hmm.
know I
Yes.
mean, you can't do it for 6 months and then it's over. No, you're basically going to do it till the day you die. so
So,
so it's a
so
journey. I think that's something I'm also learning slowly, is to find that kind of momentum and something that you're able to sustain and keep going, you know for a long period of time, not become, get kind of lost in this thing and then just jump off it and put the weight back on. And I guess life is learning from your mistakes and your experiences, which is
uh,
the way I would like to look at it as well.
fantastic, and I love the way you describe the journey as a lifestyle, because far too many people want to do a diet or do low carb. It's a lifestyle for me. It's something that I will live for the rest of my life. For me, I lost over 50 pounds in 6 months, and reversed my pre-diabetes and cured my sleep apnea using low carb. These were totally unexpected benefits. For me, it's a lifestyle. But in any kind of genre, you will see people who are very strict. I'll use the word anal. and they're very, very detailed, and it can be very off-putting for people because not everybody wants to count their macros, and you've been able to do it without that. And I love the relaxed way that you view keto and low carb, which should be encouraging for a number of people watching this to know that you don't have to sit down and count every single macro to be able to benefit from low carb eating.
Yeah, and I think people need to sort of, I guess, figure it out for themselves also. Like you said, for you, keto did a lot more than just help you lose weight. It
Mm,
helped you with your diabetes, it helped you with your sleep apnea. For a lot of people, it works in many other ways. It helps them with other health issues that they may have
mm,
had. And there's also, we must take into account that maybe keto doesn't work for a lot of people as well. And that's okay. At the end of the day, I think the ultimate goal is to do what's good for your health and do what you are able to sustain for a long time, because it is a lifestyle. Whether that lifestyle is low carb, medium carb, high carb, whatever it is, there is. I personally, over the last 4 or 5 years, have realized that there is no one diet that fits everybody. There is a way for everyone to sort of do what works for them. I mean, look, we've seen the fittest people who eat everything. You know, there are bodybuilders who eat carbs and are super fit. There are guys doing calisthenics who are ripped and very fit. People who live till 90 and have been eating badly for their entire life. So every person has to figure out what is going to work for them and sort of work with that, I feel. So I think what you were saying earlier is like the keto police can often be very overwhelming.
yes, they
Uh,
can do. They can be
and
very.
honestly, yes, and especially now with social media, it like I literally have left every single keto Facebook group that I had joined, like, because it's just people are the worst.
Yes. They want to be an expert at the macros and can't eat this. I mean, for me, it's a lifestyle, and you can just reduce your carbohydrates. And the great thing is there are the substitutes. So I'm going to ask you where you are moving with the Headbangers Kitchen in the future, but just for the audience's sake, when you started your keto journey, the first question is okay, you can eat the meat, but what are the accompaniments? Are the rice and the pasta and the stodge, as we call it here in this country? So, what would you say to those people who feel, well, look, I want to start a low carb diet, but I really love rice and I really love bread. What would you suggest to them as an alternative that they could use to still enjoy their food?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are two ways to actually look at this. I think anyone who wants to get into keto, the first thing is to figure out is, can you jump in cold turkey? You know, because if you are, I think, given, like, from what we had 4 or 5 years ago, today you have way more options. Um, you know, you can you can have cauliflower rice, you can have keto naan, you can have keto breads, and it's not that there's just one recipe for it. There are, apart from the fact that there are so many websites, I think in most major cities at least there are people who are actually making keto products, and they're good. you know like, there in my city in Bombay, there are at least 6 or 7 delivery kitchens doing keto meals. You don't even have to cook anymore. You just pay them a fee and they give you 4 meals in a day: breakfast, lunch, a snack, and dinner. And it's all calculated for your macros. Some of them don't do macros, some are a la carte menus. I mean, the options are massive. And I think that's one way to do it, is you jump in cold turkey, which some people can do, some can't. If anyone can't do that, my first suggestion is, okay, maybe just, like I said, since this is a long term goal, transition slowly. Maybe instead of having carbs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, start by cutting out the quantity of carbs. So if you eat 2 toasts for breakfast, cut it down to 1 toast. If you eat like a huge bowl of rice for lunch, cut it down to half. If you eat a bowl of pasta for dinner, you know, take the pasta and make less of it. I don't know if you follow this fitness guy on YouTube called L.E.A.N.
Uh, no, I'm
Jeff
not familiar.
Cavalier.
I'm not
Okay,
familiar
so
with him.
he's like this US based fitness channel, and he basically coaches football teams and all. And he had this very cool video of how to lose weight without counting calories, which was if this is your plate, you divide your plate into three portions. The largest portion is your protein, the second largest part is your vegetables, and your third part, the small compartment, is your bread or rice or pasta or whatever. And you just make sure you don't pile your plate up. You keep it at a normal level. So something as simple as that will make the difference, because you're eating more protein, then you're eating vegetables, and you're just having a little carb. So you sort of you give yourself that little satisfaction of eating that, and eventually you can wean yourself off it.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I love the way you're describing that transition into it. You don't have to dive into um, keto and low carb. And let's be fair, no one put on weight overnight, so
Yeah.
you shouldn't expect to want to lose it overnight. Take it gradually and take your time. And I'm really, really pleased that we've collaborated and you've allowed me to use a number of your recipes on my tribe platform, which I'll speak about in a moment. And I've taken some delicious recipes, and the members have been really, really happy with them. So, Sal, what does the future hold for you? Where does the next few years, what direction are you going to move into?
Well, that's interesting because if I'm being very honest, I don't know, because this was never a plan of mine.
Mm,
Doing a YouTube channel specifically for keto recipes was never. I mean, it just it became this. But I do think that since I have built an audience that is primarily watching Headbangers Kitchen for keto and low carb recipes, I think that's what I'm going to be sticking to for the foreseeable future, because I do have a separate channel where, if I want to experiment, if I want to try different things, I've got that, so that I don't dilute the audience on Headbangers Kitchen. So because that I think having a focus on the channel kind of also helps. So Headbangers Kitchen is going to be there. It's going to remain keto and low carb. There's already 300 recipes on the channel, and there are over 500 videos on it. So
wow,
that is
wow,
a lot of content.
yes.
And I would love to do another keto cookbook. And again, this is not for me, because I personally hate writing books, and it's a lot of work. But I do know that the people who watch Headbangers Kitchen have been clamoring for an Indian keto cookbook. So if I am able to get a decent deal with a decent publisher, or my current publisher gives me a good deal, I'll actually be more than happy to do that book. Uh, and yeah, Headbangers Kitchen will keep churning out the keto recipes. I've got another channel called Headbanger Eats, which is very inactive, because again, that's only for times where I want to try some different diet or go off keto and do something else. I've got that channel. And of course, I'll be making a lot of music in the coming years, because that's, well, what keeps me alive. So
Okay, great. So uh, there was one viewer question. Uh, on these shows, people can go to the L.E.A.N MindBodyCoach.com and they can submit a question. And the one question came in is the horns up. You do the horns up. What is that about? Where she said, please let him explain the horns up and the origin of that.
all right. So basically, like I said, I am a heavy metal musician. I listen to metal music. And basically, when we enjoy music, we say horns up. So, if you're at a heavy metal concert, you will see everybody putting the horns in the air when the song's over, during the song. And this is just a symbol of heavy metal. And since it is Headbangers Kitchen, horns up and welcome to Headbangers Kitchen is my sort of way of greeting people. Like if you're walking on the street, you can mostly tell heavy metal listeners from their attire. I mean, not always, but there is a sort of dress code that we have, black, and sometimes people have tattoos, beards. Uh, you can recognize the band on the t-shirt, and if you see a metalhead, you'll always be like, "Hey, buddy, horns up." It's just it's
That's
how you say hello, literally, yeah.
fantastic. Well, look, so I just want to consider just a couple of tips that you could leave some people with who are watching this. But before I do that, I just want to allow people to understand just what's coming up next this week. This Make Health Your Habit podcast is on every Monday, 7 o'clock. I look forward to seeing everybody here next week. On Wednesday, there is a something called Lean Bites Live. It was called Lean Lifestyle Tribe Live, but it's now changed its name to Lean Bites Live. This will be every single Wednesday on these same channels. You can join me at 7 o'clock. And basically speaking, during that, I'm just going to be breaking down the Lean Body Method, the 4 areas, which is low carb nutrition, sleep, exercise, and mindset. A fantastic show. Really excited about how that show is going to be developed. So put that in your diary. Join me this coming Wednesday at 7 o'clock for Lean Bites Live. And on Sunday, this coming Sunday, I have a webinar called Don't Blame the Butter for What the Bread Did. And I know Sahil will understand that. Stop blaming the butter for you putting on weight when it's really the bread. And during this webinar, I'm going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes people are making in their weight loss, and why we actually get fat, the science of why we get fat. So join me this Sunday at 2 o'clock for the webinar, Don't Blame the Butter for What the Bread Did. All you have to do if you want to register is you just go to my website, www.leanmindbodycoach.com to register. That's www.theleanmindbodycoach, and you can register for that webinar. I'm really, really excited about that webinar coming up next week. We also have 2 great guests coming up. We have a fitness instructor and a lady that has actually moved her mind and body to become a fitness model. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline. So next week is going to be a fitness special. So tune in next week, Wednesday. And again, we mentioned about the recipes, and Silas kindly allowed me to use some of his recipes on the Tribe community, which is Weight Loss Made Simple. It's a membership community. You can go to leanlifestyletribe.com and you can join Tribe. You can try it for $1, just $1 for 14 days, and you can just see if it benefits you. You can cancel it anytime. So just go to leanlifestyletribe.com and you can register for the Tribe Weight Loss Made Simple, and you'll find lots of Sal's recipes there. We've just had a comment come in. Let me share that comment. Just had that come in from someone who said, "Great podcast, fantastic guys, Sal." So you've got a fan out there that came in. Thank you very much, Zilla, for that comment. And during these shows, please feel free to be able to comment and make your comments. They come up here on YouTube and Facebook. So thank you very much for that comment. So as we bring this to a close, so if you was to have a tip or a couple of tips you'd leave the audience with, individuals who are thinking about low carb, might have been a little bit anxious about it, what would you say to them?
Right. I think the advice I would like to give anyone looking to start low carb or keto is just go ahead and do it. There's no better way to find out if it works or not rather than like, wait, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry.
That's
It's a
okay. Go
little
ahead.
tough.
Yeah, that happens
Oh man.
sometimes. That happens.
Well,
Yeah,
my first sneeze on a live stream. I really couldn't hold it. I tried my best.
yeah, that's all right. That's okay.
Right. Okay. So for people who want to get into low carb, keto, any kind of diet for that matter, is look at the big picture whenever you think about losing weight. Don't be short sighted and look at a quick fix, something that you can quickly lose weight with, and try and make a lifestyle change rather than take this as a diet that you're going to follow for 3 months and then get back to some form of eating that got you here in the first place. So I think, uh, realize that weight loss takes time. Like you said, you didn't gain weight in one night, you're not going to lose it in one night. So look at this as a long term lifestyle change rather than a quick diet. I think that's the main thing. If you go into any diet looking at it as a long term thing, you are more likely to be successful. I think if you lose, say, 10 kilos in 1 year, you're more likely to keep it off than if you lost 10 kilos in 3 months. I think that is a very important thing, is that realize that this is a slow and steady process. There's a method to the madness.
That's fantastic advice. And just remind the audience where they can find you on your website and your YouTube. Where can they find you?
Yeah, if you just go to my website, actually, you'll find everything you need there. www.headbangerskitchen.com. You'll find the links to my keto book, to my merchandise, to my social media, to my YouTube channel, the written recipes with all the macros. Basically, everything you need is on headbangerskitchen.com.
Fantastic. And finally, let me just say one of my sayings is weight loss without taste loss. Weight loss without, and your food epitomizes that. Your food is absolutely delicious. I really encourage anybody watching and listening to this to go over and visit the Headbangers kitchen and see the plethora of recipes there. Definitely try the
Paella.
paella. Definitely try that paella. And I heard the chocolate chip. You have a chocolate chip cookie. I think that a chocolate that people talk about often as well.
I got a
So,
chocolate chip cookie. I got a chocolate chip muffin. I got
oh,
I got a lot of
yeah,
chocolate
you
stuff.
got a lot of chocolate. But Sarah, listen. All I want to say is, I really do appreciate. You are established in a local community, and I really appreciate you taking the time out today to come and share your wisdom with the audience. And I know it was incredibly appreciated. And I love your natural poise. There is something endearing about you. When you came to London, I met you. There's something warm and endearing with you, and I wish you all the best. I want to thank your wife for her tenacity in the beginning, because you wouldn't have started on this journey. So please
Yeah,
say thank you to her. I want to thank you.
I will.
I know you're up late here in Mumbai, and possibly later on at some point you can come back and we can have another conversation. But for now, I
Absolutely.
think you deserve one of these. Yeah, that's a DJ horn, because I think you've been
Uh,
absolutely fantastic. You know, thank you once again for gracing the Make Health Your Habit podcast live, and I wish you all
my
the
pleasure.
best for the future. Thank you everybody who's listening and watching this evening. Thank you much for taking up your time. Remember, Lean Live Bites, Lean Bites Live on Wednesday, and don't blame the butter for what the bread did on Sunday. And I'll be back here next week, Monday, with two fantastic guests to inspire you all around fitness. For now, enjoy the rest of your night. Good night. Good night to yourself. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the
Bye.
best for the future. Good night, everybody. Bye. Good night.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.